Essay structure. This screencast is about the fundamentals of essay structure, especially when you're writing essays about literature. Here we go. This page shows you what your essay should look like. Up at the top left corner of the page, you'll have your first name, your last name, the title of the course, the name of the teacher, just the number, the name of the month, and the 4-digit year. You'll notice that there are no commas here. Then you'll have the title. Again, notice no commas, no fancy font. It's not big, it's not bold, it's not underlined. You'll see here that you have this introduction triangle. The idea behind this is that you start out with a broad idea and that you get narrower and narrower until you get to your thesis statement. So you'll start out with a broad introductory sentence about the ideas or the book or the culture, whatever the topic of your essay is. That should be that first sentence. You'll need several sentences of background information. You can assume that your reader has some familiarity with the book, but maybe has read it several years ago. That's a good assumption that you can generally make. You'll also want to include the title of the book and the author, as well as any really important information about the book. Then you'll move to a few sentences about the topic of your thesis statement. So if you're writing about a theme, here is where you would define what your theme is and give some examples of it. The very last part of your introduction is your thesis statement that is one sentence only. You'll remember that the thesis statement has 3 parts: the topic, the argument, and the 3 examples. We're going to look now at the body paragraph. The body paragraph is a little bit more complicated, but here we go. So we'll have our topic sentence, which is the topic, the argument, and the one example. This can look just like your thesis statement, but you only have the one example instead. You should also remember that the order that you mention the things in the thesis statement should be the order that you present them in your body paragraphs. So if your first example is about hamburgers, and then your second one is about hot dogs, your first paragraph should be hamburgers, and your second paragraph should be hot dogs. That just makes it nice and clear and easy for the reader to know where you're going. So here's what you'll need after the topic sentence. Okay, your first example, so you're going to say what's going on in the book. That's called the context. You're going to introduce the quotation, so say who is saying it to whom and in what way. So if somebody is under stress or if somebody is jumping for joy, those things are really important, so that would matter. You would put in the first quotation and cite it correctly. Remember the author's last name and the page number with the period going outside the parentheses. You're going to justify or explain the connection to the topic of the paragraph. So you're going to make sure that you're getting back to that thesis idea here. And then you're going to wrap up this paragraph and transition to the next paragraph. Now, after you do that 3 times, you will look at the conclusion right here. The conclusion is sometimes considered the opposite of the introduction. You can think of it as starting with how you ended in your introduction and then getting broad again. So the conclusion is narrow to broad. So you'll state your thesis, but you want to use different words. You can use some of the same language, but you don't want it to be exactly the same sentence. You're going to summarize each of your body paragraphs in one sentence. You can do more, but at least one sentence per body paragraph. And then you're going to say why your thesis is important or how it could affect other people. So if it's about a book, then you might say how other people might read or understand the book differently. Or if you're mentioning a theme, you might say how it might apply to other people today or other books or something like that. So that is the basics.